A+ലേക്കുള്ള വഴി ഇനി തനിയെ തുറക്കാം. Subscribe to the Enclaps channel. Ring the bell button and open success. It's that easy.
Hi. Today we are traveling back to the world in the 20th century. Several revolutions happened in our world. Yes, all they profoundly influenced us. Among that revolutions, some was led by the people of a country against the dictatorial system of the rulers of the same country, like Russian Revolution, French Revolution, Chinese Revolution, etc. But some other revolutions were against the foreigners who came to dominate their country, that is, against the colonization. Did colonial rule in the world end with these revolutions? No, not at all. Colonial rule greatly influenced the later world. So, today, here we will learn about the changes that colonial rule has made in the history of the 20th century. When we hear of colonization, we all think of a continent. Yes, the Europe. England was the leading European country who started the colonization. The Industrial Revolution of the 18th century began in England or Britain. So, what do you mean by Industrial Revolution? Simply, it was the process of change from an agrarian and handicraft economy to one dominated by industry and machine manufacturing. This revolution brought a major breakthrough in agriculture, industrial production and transportation, with a major impact on the socio-economic and cultural spheres of Britain. It gradually spread from England to other countries of Europe. The capitalists invested in factories and thus production was increased. This increased their profit. This economic system in which production and distribution are controlled by the capitalists with the aim to increase profit is known as capitalism. Hope you understood about capitalism. As a part of capitalism, many nations produced more than they needed and more than they could accommodate in their domestic markets. That is overproduction. Of course, they want to sell those products. They search for markets in other countries. At last, they found the market of African and Latin American countries. Using political and military forces, the European countries economically exploited these nations. Later, they became the colonies of European countries. This process of transmission from trade to power is what we call colonization. Hope you understood about how the Industrial Revolution led to colonization. Clear? To know more about the characteristic features of colonization, let's familiar with a map. This is the map of African continent. Africa is the continent with the largest number of countries. Do you find any specialty in the boundaries of African countries? Yes, most of the borderlines are straight. Why so? Like our India, the entire continent Africa was once the colony of Europeans. The Europeans who sought for resources established their dominance in Africa. In the beginning of the 20th century, on the basis of some agreement among the European countries, they divided the African nations amongst themselves by just drawing straight lines on the map. This kind of sharing of Africa is called as partition of Africa. Hope you understood about the exploitative nature of colonization from the partition of Africa. European countries saw their colonies as a source for collecting raw materials and a market for selling products. But later, things changes. How? As time passes, against any kind of exploitation, protests will be formed. Likewise, in Europe, trade unions were formed to protest against capitalist exploitation. This resulted in the increase in the wages of workers and diminished the profit of the capitalists. Therefore, to increase of the profit margin, instead of collecting raw materials from colonies, They just invested capital in the colonies. So, let's find the factors that induced them to do the capital investment in colonies. Cheap labor, availability of raw materials, low cost involved in manufacturing and selling goods in colonies. This was another special form of colonization itself. It is known as imperialism. That is, it is the flow of financial capital to colonies. Through imperialism, a nation imposes its political, economical and cultural dominance on another nation. Capital investment in the colonies is the most distinctive character of imperialism from colonization. Like colonization, imperialism too affected the colonies substantially. Let's check. It destroyed the traditional economic system of the colonies. It replaced the administrative and judicial systems of colonies. The people in colonies were forced to cultivate cash crops in lieu of traditional food crops. Poverty and unemployment increased. Natural resources were widely exploited. The indigenous art, literature, language, culture and education system were destroyed. These competition and conflict among imperialist nations for colonies and markets led to the outbreak of a war, the disastrous wars. Hope you understood. See you later.
3 ലക്ഷത്തിലേറെ വരുന്ന ചോദ്യോത്തരങ്ങൾ ഏറ്റവും കുറഞ്ഞ ചിലവിൽ സ്വന്തമാക്കുവാൻ ഉടൻ തന്നെ ഡൗൺലോഡ് ചെയ്യൂ എൻക്ലാപ്സ് ദ ലേണിംഗ് ആപ്പ്.